Doctor, you've altered my surgery results, haven't you? The voice of construction king Richard Mason was trembling as he asked this question. Standing before him was Dr. Michael Kane, the doctor he had trusted for 20 years. That final conversation between them had been secretly recorded, and this recording was the first link in the chain of the biggest medical murder conspiracy in Los Angeles. So why were patients being killed? Who was giving these death orders? And most importantly, who was next? Tonight, I will tell you the horrifying truth that took place at Los Angeles' most prestigious private hospital, because we can no longer remain silent. At Meridian Medical Center in the heart of Beverly Hills, where the city's wealthiest receive treatment, an unexpected phone call came at 9:30 p.m. last night. The caller was Dr. Jennifer Lopez, an anesthesia technician who had worked at the hospital for 15 years. "I can't take it anymore," she said on the phone. "I have to tell what happened. Otherwise, more people will die." What Dr. Lopez told us seemed unbelievable at first, then horrifying, and finally, inevitable. "The day before Richard's surgery," said Lopez, "I heard Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kane talking with Surgery Coordinator Dr. Simon Turner. He was saying, 'We'll finish this job tomorrow.' I thought he was talking about the patient file, but I was wrong." So what really happened in the operating room that night? I have Dr. Lopez's phone recording. Let's listen. "When the surgery started, everything seemed normal. Richard was under anesthesia. Dr. Kane began the operation. But then strange things started happening. Dr. Kane had requested a drug we shouldn't use during surgery. He said, 'Special protocol for this patient.' I tried to object, but he said, 'You just do your job.' So what was this special protocol, and why was it only applied to certain patients, following the information provided by Dr. Lopez? We examined Meridian Hospital's death records from the past 2 years, and a shocking truth emerged. Of the 34 patients who died while receiving treatment at the hospital in the last 24 months, 18 were in the same situation. They were all Los Angeles' wealthiest businessmen. They had all recently purchased large plots of land. They were all operated on by the same anesthesia technician, and they all died from the same complication. Coincidence? Absolutely not. A week before construction king Richard Mason's death, real estate giants Michael Johnson and Kevin Wilson had also lost their lives at the same hospital, in the same way. So what was the common point of these men? Why were they targeted? The answer was hidden in the documents that Richard Mason's wife Sarah showed us. After her husband's death, Sarah had searched their house thoroughly, and she found documents that her husband had hidden in a small safe in his study. "Richard had become very paranoid in his final days," says Sarah. "He constantly said he was being followed. He said, 'Sarah, if anything happens to me, give these documents to journalists.' I didn't take it seriously. I wish I had." What was in the documents? Sales contracts for Los Angeles' 12 most valuable plots of land plans, showing these lands would secretly change hands with the same company. And the most shocking, a list titled "Elimination of Obstructing Names." Who was on this list? Of course, Richard Mason, Michael Johnson, and Kevin Wilson. But the real shock was the signature on the list: Meridian Medical Center Special Operations Unit. So why was the hospital involved in land wars? What was this Special Operations Unit? The second bombshell information from Dr. Lopez clarified everything. "Meridian Hospital isn't just a treatment facility," she said. "It's also a land laundering center." "What do you mean?" "On the second floor of the hospital building, there's a section that nobody knows about. That's not a hospital. It's a real estate commission office. When very wealthy patients come, while planning their treatments, they also investigate their assets." What does this mean? Were they treating patients not to heal them, but to take their property? "Yes," says Doctor. Lopez. If the patient had valuable land and no intention to sell, they experienced complications. So who was the brain behind this system? Who had designed this horrible plan? Dr. Michael Kane, Chief Medical Officer of Meridian Hospital. 25 years of experience, overseas education, perfect references. But his real identity was completely different, according to information provided by Dr. Lopez. When Dr. Kane came to the hospital 5 years ago, he brought a very special team with him. Dr. Simon Turner, surgery coordinator, nurse Rebecca Adams, ICU supervisor technician Marcus Steele, anesthesia specialist. What did this team have in common? They had all left their previous hospitals due to suspicious patient deaths. Dr. Kane had chosen us one by one, says Dr. Lopez. At first, there was only the promise of high salary. But then, the threats began. What kind of threats? He said if we didn't stay silent, we might also experience complications. But Dr. Kane wasn't acting alone. There was a much greater power behind him. The connection between Vincent Gold, owner of Los Angeles' largest real estate company Gold Key Construction, and Meridian Hospital wasn't a coincidence. Among the documents Sarah found were audio recordings between Dr. Kane and Vincent Gold. "Doctor, have you handled the Richard Mason problem? Surgery is tomorrow. Afterwards, we'll say he had a heart attack. Perfect. When the land's transferred to us, your share will be deposited. How much money? $50 million this time. We caught a big fish. $50 million, the price of a human life. So why was Vincent Gold so eager for these lands? The answer was hidden in a very secret project about Los Angeles' future. According to documents, the 12 plots of land owned by the murdered businessmen were in critical positions for the future LAX airport expansion plan. These lands would increase in value 100-fold when airport construction began. But the current owners didn't want to sell. The solution? Eliminate the owners. Vincent Gold's plan was perfect, says Dr. Lopez. When wealthy businessmen got sick, he would direct them to Meridian. There, they would be killed during treatment. The heirs would be forced to sell the lands. And this plan had worked. In the past 2 years, after the deaths of 18 businessmen, the lands had passed to Gold Key Construction. But Richard Mason was different. He had started to suspect. In Richard Mason's phone records, a conversation from 3 days before his death stands out. "Sarah, if anything happens to me, stay away from Dr. Kane. This man is a killer." "Richard, what are you saying?" "Michael and Kevin's deaths aren't coincidence. They killed them. Now it's my turn." "How could you understand?" "I hired a private detective before going to Dr. Kane's clinic. The findings are horrifying." So what had Richard Mason discovered? We have Private Detective Harrison Wells's report, and this report shows the true dimensions of the conspiracy. Detective Harrison Wells had followed Dr. Kane for 2 weeks and discovered shocking details. Dr. Kane's daily routine was very strange, says Wells. Hospital in the mornings, Gold Key Construction in the evenings, weekends, private hospitals in different cities. Different cities? Yes, Dallas, Miami, Seattle. He had established the same system in every city. Kill wealthy patient, take their land. What does this mean? Wasn't the conspiracy limited to Los Angeles? Absolutely not, says Wells. Dr. Kane has 8 partners across America. They're playing the same game in each city they're located in. 8 cities, 8 hospitals, 8 killer doctors. So who is the leader of this national network? The final truth discovered by Detective Wells was the most shocking. Dr. Kane is also just a pawn. The real boss is former Assistant Secretary Dr. Eric Solomon, who works in the Department of Health. Dr. Solomon was using his position in the Department of Health to facilitate private hospital licenses, prevent inspections, and close files when necessary. I saw horrible things in the basement of Solomon's house, says Wells. There's a map of America on the walls, cities marked with red pins, each pin a death hospital. 24 cities, 24 pins, 24 hospitals. So why had Dr. Solomon established such a network? Dr. Solomon's account records explain his motivation. In the past 3 years, a total of $2.3 billion had been transferred to various offshore accounts. Each death patient equals $50 to $100 million commission. But money wasn't the only motivation. Dr. Solomon was also after political power. Solomon's plan was much bigger, says Detective Wells. By controlling America's wealthiest businessmen, he wanted to control the economy too. How? After wealthy businessmen died, their lands and companies passed to his partners. These partners were also Dr. Solomon's puppets. America's economy was secretly falling into Dr. Solomon's hands. But Dr. Solomon had made a mistake. He had targeted Richard Mason too early. Richard Mason was a very careful man, says his wife Sarah. 1 week before going to the hospital, he had transferred all his assets to my name. He had also secretly recorded his conversations with Dr. Kane. These recordings contained all the details of the conspiracy, which patients had been targeted, how lands had been divided, Dr. Solomon's instructions and future plans. After Richard Mason died, Sarah had handed these recordings to the police. Dr. Lopez's last phone conversation delivered the blow that brought down the system. There was a meeting at the hospital last night, she says. Dr. Kane was in panic. He was saying, Richard Mason's wife went to the police. Everyone needs to disappear. A decision was made at the meeting. Everyone would destroy records and flee. Early this morning, Dr. Kane formatted all computers at the hospital. Then, he took his emergency suitcase and left the hospital. So where had Dr. Kane gone? This morning at 6 a.m., the Los Angeles Police Department launched a major operation. Meridian Hospital was sealed. Dr. Kane and his team are being sought. Doctor. Solomon's house was raided. Hospitals in 8 cities were raided simultaneously. Dr. Solomon was caught at his house, say police sources. He had $50 million in cash and a fake passport with him. Dr. Kane is still being sought. He was last seen at LAX airport. With this operation, the files of 247 wealthy businessmen who died suspiciously in the past 3 years were reopened. Each one is a murder, says Chief Prosecutor David Park. Justice will be served to the families. Dr. Jennifer Lopez has been placed in witness protection. My conscience is clear, she says in our last phone conversation. Innocent people won't die anymore. The story I told you tonight isn't just a hospital scandal. This is a horrifying example of how power and money can unite to kill innocent people. 247 people were murdered because they had land. Families were destroyed because someone wanted to get richer. But most importantly, if Dr. Jennifer Lopez hadn't been brave, if Sarah hadn't persisted, this system would have continued to operate. So what happens now? Which hospitals can we trust? And does this system exist elsewhere? The answers to these questions will be in our upcoming videos, because the truth has just begun to emerge.